Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to have a bit of a discussion today about what I think is just not really that great of a design in Wuthering Waves. And I'm not talking about Chisa with like her kit or like her actual visual design or anything like that. It's more so a focus on Chisa with her signature weapon. Yes, we're going to be talking about Kumo Kiri today, ladies and gentlemen, and the just very odd design of the secondary part of its weapon effect, especially when you consider the actual meta relevance of this character. So everybody knows that Chisa is meant to support negative statuses. Yes, that's like her thing. You can tell from her kit, you can tell from the fact that her main buff, which is Threat of Bane and 18% defense ignore, you can only access it if you have negative statuses in your kit. And then you combine that with the fact that she raises the negative status cap limit by 3 on all of them, including Electro Rage, a subsidiary part of Electro Flare. And then you also have her repeatedly applying Havoc Bane. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's pretty obvious this is the unit that's meant to be supporting negative statuses both now and in the future. But another thing is very clear. Her ability to support negative status teams is really bad for 2/3 of them. Yes, there are currently only 3 negative status teams in the game, and her weapon actually greatly contributes for why she is not good on 2 out of 3 of them. So let's actually break down what the real issue is. So everyone knows that this is Chisa's strongest team. When she's in this team and she's in this lineup, she gets great results. Not really that much better than Arrow Rover, but if she has her weapon, she does outperform an S6R5 Arrow Rover. So that's good. However, when you take Chisa into some other lineups, that's where stuff really starts falling apart. And I think a lot of people have been able to experiment and test out these lineups themselves. She sucks dick in this team. She is really bad. She's so bad in the Spectro Frazzle team that she gets outperformed by Shorekeeper. She gets outperformed by Spectro Rover. And I'm going to be honest, there's a chance, I haven't really tested this out, she might get outperformed by Verena too, if I'm frankly being honest. And the reality of this situation is that Chisa's buffs don't really kind of work in this team properly. And let me just talk a little bit about as to why. So, one of the big things about Chisa is the fact that she actually has the ability to support Zani teams. Notice how I said just Chisa, because this is how Chisa's outro skill works. To get Threat of Bane, her 18% defense ignore, you have to either inflict a negative status or deal negative status damage. She has these 2 conditions involved that allow her to give this 18% defense ignore buff to a lot of characters on the roster. Not really that many, but like, she can give it to Zani. Because this is what Zani does with her kit. Zani deals Spectro Frazzle damage. She deals negative status damage. However, Zani's team cannot apply negative statuses. Spectro Frazzle is the negative status. And Zani converts Spectro Frazzle into Helical Embers. And Helical Embers do not count as a negative status. And the way that you can tell for sure is, well, you just go to Chisa over here, negative status. Includes Spectro Frazzle, Havoc Bane, Fusion Burst, Glacial Chafe, Electro Flare, and Arrow Erosion. Notice how there's no Helical Embers in there. And this is how you know, well, this isn't really happening. So you can just go ahead and actually take your Zani team over here, right? Oh, wait, no, this is actually going to be a great way for us to look at it. Let's just teleport over to a random boss real fast, and then I'll show you what's going on. We're going to test it out with the Arrow Erosion team first. So, notice how my Cartithia over here, right? Her baseline arrow damage bonus is 30%. Let's see what it looks like if I just go on to Chisa real fast. Apply my negative statuses, right? Oh, you see? Oh, she's building up the stacks. Oh, she's at 3 now, right? Now let's go on to Cartithia and apply Arrow Erosion to this boss. 2 stacks, right? What did we just get? Whoa! I got 24% arrow damage bonus! Because you went from 30 to 60 and then got the 24. You can clearly see all attributes are being buffed by 24%. Right? I think that's kind of obvious. Chisa's weapon has activated. Kumo Kiri, the weapon that gives 24% all attribute damage bonus, guys, it has activated. I don't think we can really dispute that over here, because look at what the tagline on Chisa's negative status, or Chisa's weapon is. When teammates inflict negative statuses, they gain a 24% all attribute damage bonus. Awesome. Chisa's weapon works on this team. However, what happens when I do this with Zani, right? What happens when I change up this team a little bit? I put these two guys in. I put in Chisa as well. And then we use Zani's enhanced skill. All right, there we go. He's locked on. I've got my 3 stacks, right? So when I do negative status damage, or I apply the Helical Ember, you might think, oh, we should get the attribute damage bonus. Right? The Helical Ember stack is on. You saw it at the top of the Dragon of Dirge. It's on. Oh, would you look at that? Oh, that's a little bit unfortunate. It appears that applying a Helical Ember, what many are calling a negative status, isn't giving Zani a 24% attribute damage bonus. This weapon is designed in a way where it's literally different than her outro skill. Notice how her outro skill reads, inflicting negative status or dealing negative status gives Threat of Bane. For this weapon, only inflicting negative statuses gives you its damage effect. It should realistically say inflicting or dealing negative status damage. Because why the fuck does her outro skill have this level of freedom and give the buffs to Zani, but then her weapon doesn't? It doesn't make that much sense. And this is how you know that Zani's thing is working. Let's just get Chisa's outro skill ready to go. And let's just see it over here. Would you look at that? What do you see active at the bottom of my screen, guys? That's Threat of Bane. That's the 18% defense ignore. It's right here from Chisa. We have it. We literally have it. So for Zani, on Chisa's team, you get this buff, but you don't get this one. Why? What's the reasoning behind this? I don't understand. Why is there not just similar wording in the weapon that there is in the outro skill? Because guess what, guys? It's not like this team over here, sorry, Chisa, Zani, Phoebe. It's not like this team is strong. This team is worse, right, than having Shorekeeper. Would having 24% additional attribute damage bonus on Zani break this team and suddenly make it better than Shorekeeper or better than Spectro Rover? And the answer is no, it wouldn't. And it makes me wonder, why is Chisa's performance in these Spectro Frazzle teams almost like intentionally designed to be bad? Because at the very minimum, right, Zani could have used the bonus from Kumo Kiri, and this team would still be worse than having Shorekeeper, and it would still be worse than having Spectro Rover. But they couldn't even do that. And it genuinely does make me wonder, is Chisa just kind of like getting sandbagged? What is the reason for this unit being so bad on 2 out of the 3 negative status teams in the game? Why is this unit only an upgrade in the Arrow Erosion teams? Would anybody have lost their shit? Would the game be in a worse state if Chisa was the best in slot for the Zani team and the Phoebe team and replace Shorekeeper as the best in slot? My answer is no. I think it actually would have been perfectly fine if Chisa was a couple percentage points better than Shorekeeper or Spectro Rover in the Spectro Frazzle teams. But she's not. But you want to know why it would have been fine? Because Shorekeeper is still a best in slot for Galbraina and Chuyan. Shorekeeper is still a best in slot for Yuno and Augusta. Shorekeeper is still a best in slot, right? For the Carlotta Jeja, for the Camellia Rosia, for the Gian Mortefi. She's still the best in slot for a majority of teams in the game. Would her losing 2 of her comps where she's a best in slot in, would that be that bad? I don't think so. Because then that would give Chisa 3 teams where she's a best in slot in as a generalist support, rather than just 1. And then she's about 5% or less better than a completely free character. I agree that this unit is supposed to grow in value over time. I'm just merely of the belief that I don't think that her weapon needed to be engineered in a way where it specifically goes against the design of her outro skill and just objectively performs worse for no reason on Zani's team when Chisa with Zani is already really fucking bad in the first place. And when Spectro Frazzle makes up 2 out of the 3 negative status teams in the game, and Chisa is one of the worst in slots for 2 out of the 3 teams that she specializes in, I'm just kind of confused. Because what would have been wrong if she was the best Spectro Frazzle support? Would she have broken the game if she was 5% better than Shorekeeper in these teams? No, she wouldn't have. There's no real issue at all. So why is she releasing like this, where people reasonably feel like they need to wait like 40 days to even like kind of make her work? I don't really get it. And I'm pretty sure those that own Zani and those that owned Phoebe were excited for the opportunity to make their teams slightly stronger. Because, hey, guys, your limited negative status support is out here. Spectro Frazzle is a negative status. Oh, by the way, putting this character on your negative status team is a downgrade compared to fucking Spectro Rover. I'm saying this as like a gamer, as somebody that likes to like play around with teams, that likes to experiment. One of the most fun things that I have to do in this game is experimenting with new lineups. But like to see all Spectro Frazzle teams, 1 out of our 6 debuffs, dead on arrival because this unit really fucking sucks at supporting them and then doesn't even work with Zani despite her outro skill working, it's kind of like a kick in the head. Did it need to be like this? No. Would it technically have been power creep if she was the best Spectro Frazzle support? Maybe. But I'm pretty sure there could have been a better way to design the kit so that it boosted Spectro Frazzle at least like a little bit more. Because right now I don't understand, I don't understand what the point of like this debuff even is anymore. If it ends up being that like the best way to play Spectro Frazzle, a negative status team, is to not use the negative status support. This just feels like a regular hyper carry team, but more restrictive. I'm glad that Air Erosion actually feels like a negative status team. This just feels like a hyper carry team, but way more restrictive. Maybe this is more so insight into the failure as of Spectro Frazzle to actually be a proper debuff. Maybe like that's what this study is more so around, and Spectro Frazzle will be like the outlier once all the other debuffs get sorted out. Think things like Glacio Chafe, your Fusion Bursts, your Electro Flares, and then it'll actually be fine. But when we only have 3 negative status teams at the time of Chisa's release, and then Chisa is dog shit in 66% of them, and she's only good in 1 team in the entire fucking game. 1 team in the entire game. I do think that calls a little bit into question the design of whatever the fuck they were doing, specifically on her weapon. I've talked about her kit, but I think the weapon is just the biggest fucking outlier to me. And I am begging Kuro Games, either rework how Helical Embers works so that it's considered a negative status so that this isn't an issue, or just make this unit's weapon have the same wording as their outro skill. Why is it even different? This seems like a bug. It seems like an oversight. And when we know that this game has had a massive fucking issue with quality assurance, quality control across its beta tests, where testers are busy leaking everything in the update instead of actually playing the characters and finding out where there are bugs. Evidence, I'll show you the proof right here that nobody's actually testing for the fucking bugs. Y'all remember Chuyan's release? Where the unit, Chuyan, literally got, and I want to see if it shows up over here. This one might be too old. Oh yeah, this one is too old. Okay, they don't show it up. But Chuyan basically had 5 separate patch notes talking about all of his bug fixes because he had so many bugs that went unseen during the 2.7 beta. And this, to me, this whole situation with Chisa and her weapon and the fact it doesn't work on 1 out of the 3 negative status teams in the game, it seems like more shit that should be bug fixed that slipped past beta testers because they're not doing their fucking job properly. And we know for a fact they never do their job properly. So please, just fix this. We don't need the Zani feat. We don't need this team to get kicked down any further than it is because it's already bad. Why do we need to make it worse? Why do we, why are there so many things in here that are going against this character? I don't think that she needs to be over like this in the meta to this high of a degree. So I'm begging you, Kuro Games, make this change. That'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.